All right, Oscar, welcome to the show, amigo.
Dímelo.
Dímelo, caballero. Oh, yeah, listen, it's funny, man. Probably 10, 15 years ago, I'm watching TV. You come on the screen, and you're playing a Latino, right? And I go, in 5 seconds, I go, this guy's a Cuban guy from Miami. And then I wait a minute or two, and I go, wait a minute, I think I know that guy. And I start thinking through my memory bank. I'm like, of course I know him. I know him through baseball. And he had to have played in Hialeah or with one of my brothers or a boys club or whatever. And then it just started to click, man. It was wild.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. It might have been in Kane when I was in Kane.
It was probably for sure in Kane because,
Kane?
There you go. I like that mug, dude, because, dude, you know how it is, man. Like anytime that they cast a Cuban guy and then they put like a Mexican or an Italian dude and it's like, it doesn't come out right. I'm like, I hear you speaking. I'm like, that's a Cuban from Miami for sure. For sure. He nailed it.
I have a funny story with Kane. Now that you mentioned Kane, I had moved to LA when I booked that show. I had just moved over here. I had done some stuff in Miami. I had done a film called Libertad about a political prisoner in Cuba that was big in Miami. I hear about Kane, about a Cuban family that they're casting this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I gotta get in on that. I have to get in. I saw that was my ticket.
That's written for you. Yeah.
That's my ticket. And when you're naive when you first move out here. So for me, I was the only Cuban in LA in my head. Later on, I found out there's a million. But naive takes you a long way. Sometimes when you're naive, sometimes you go a long way with that. So I'm like, I told my manager, I had just signed with her. I go, we got to get in on this. We got to get in on this. And she tells me, well, honey, let's put you on tape. Back then, people weren't auditioning on tape or anything like that. And let's send the casting director, because they're not calling you in. Let's send them that tape so they can see you. So I did the scene and I improvised in the scene. They called me in to read. And I went in, I read for the casting director. I said stuff in Spanish. The casting director had no idea what I was talking about. But to that casting director, probably sounded legit.
Yeah.
And then I get a call back. Basically, it's for it's a huge role in the show. And I go in and I had no idea. I was reading for network and everybody was there. Like the producers were there, the execs were there, Jimmy Smits was in the room, Cynthia Sidre was in the room. I didn't know any of these people. I just knew Jimmy because I had seen him on TV tons. Yeah. But I made I'm gonna go in character. I'm not gonna break character. I'm in character. I'm gonna walk in and walk out, and they're not gonna know if I'm Santo or what the deal is.
Yeah. So
I go in and I break all the casting rules. They say go in. Normally they tell actors when you go in the audition room, just say hi, be courteous. Any questions? If you really have a question, ask the question, but don't ask the question for the sake of asking questions. Right. And then do your scene and then say thank you very much and leave. Unless they ask you to stay or whatever. But I didn't do any of that. I walked in like a typical Cuban that gets to, how we are. We walk in and we have status. Doesn't matter who's in the room. I walked in character. I said, buenos dias. I saw Jimmy Smits. I shook his hand. They tell you, don't shake people's hands because people walk in there, they're going to catch a cold if everybody shakes your hand. I shook the hand. I go, buenos dias, hello. And they go, you have any questions? I'm standing in front. And I'm thinking, God, there's so many people in this room. It's like a big conference room, both sides of people sitting down. I had no idea who they were. They introduced each person. Now, I was nervous. I'm not thinking about any of that, but I was in character. So they go, you have any questions? My character in the show is from Matanzas. Mm-hmm. So I go, no, I don't have any questions, but I have a little funny story. And I say that, I have a little funny story. My character, Santos from Matanzas. Y qué casualidad, I go into Spanish. Qué casualidad that my dad is from Matanzas. In fact, my grandfather had the biggest funeral home in all of Matanzas. Matanzas is not that big, so I'm sure the funeral home wasn't that big either. But in Matanzas was the biggest funeral home. They all laugh and stuff. I go into the scene. I improv. Blah, 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 blah. No, Mr. Vega. Esto no lo que usted se cree. Estos son regalitos. The guy who's reading with me, who I later found out was executive producer, showrunner, Jonathan Prince, is like a little lost because that's not in the script.
Right.
I'm going totally off book. to start out the scene, I'm going off book. No, te brega, estos son realitos la gente, because he catches me stealing stuff from the King company, the rum company. Yeah. I had like toilet paper, a bottle in the trunk. He sees all that. He's like, what is this? No son realitos, lo han hecho la gente aquí. And then I go into the scene, and then he confronts me in the scene, which is in the pilot. He confronts me, and I say, well, I do what I got to do for my family. Basically, when it comes down to it, I do what I got to do for my family. My character was a killer.
Yeah.
And I said in the audition, I said, I do what I got to do for my family. The audition, finish the scene. That's the end of the scene.
Yeah.
And Cynthia Citre stands up and she goes like this, and she's like, I haven't heard that word in 20 years. Acere. She goes, because Cynthia is from Miami. It turns out that she went to Miami High like me.
No way.
She went to Miami High and then moved to LA, 20 years ago at that time. Cynthia Citre wrote Mambo Kings.
No way.
She was a writer of Mambo Kings. So I know who she was.
She Cuban?
She's Cuban from Miami.
No way. So the second she heard Acere, you were in.
That got me cast.
That got you cast.
The Acere got me cast, and not breaking character got me cast at all. Because
isn't that crazy?
We're shooting the first episode, and I'm in the car with Jimmy in the car, and we're just killing time. We're waiting. They're setting up the rigs and the cameras and stuff like that. It's a driving scene. I'm driving him around. And Jimmy looks at me, and he goes, that moment on, he started calling me Acere. To this day, he still calls me Acere. He goes, oh, yeah, Acere. So you came from Cuba on a boat? Or you came on a raft, or you came on a plane? I had totally forgotten the whole thing. And I'm like, no, bro. I was born in Miami. I've never been to Cuba.
Dude, you know how many times I've been asked that same stupid question? Did your family come on? I'm like, dude, I'm from Miami. It's crazy, man. People are crazy.
That's funny.
Wait, let's take a step back. So, dude, your story, man. So take me from baseball player from Miami High. How did you get into acting? Like, how did that sort of happen in your life?
I fell into it, man. I fell into it. It was a freak accident, really. I was going to Miami-Dade.
Huh.
I wasn't playing baseball anymore. I was going to Miami-Dade, and I needed one elective to finish with my associate. And I tell my girlfriend at the time, I say, at the time I was using computer. You had computers, by the way. That wasn't that popular. No, people don't walk around with a laptop on the.
Yeah.
And I was working, and I needed a class like at 11 a.m. And I tell my girlfriend at the time, who was going to college at the same time as I was, I go, hey, sign me up for a class. And I think it was the only class I saw open at that time. It was like something like debate class or acting. Yeah. I'm like, I ain't signing up for an acting class. That's for sure.
You're macho cubano, man. You're not going to do acting, right?
No, like, acting. That's
your parents would kill you.
No, that's for weirdos. Who's acting? Miami. Acting Miami. It's LA is very normal, but in Miami.
In Miami, yeah.
So I tell her to sign me up for a debate class. And she tells me, oh, yeah, the class that you wanted to sign up for, it wasn't open. It's full already. I go, okay, so what? She goes, I signed you up for the acting class. She starts laughing because she knew I was very shy.
Right. She
starts laughing. I signed you up for acting. Oh, God. So I started going to the acting class with a teacher from my well-known teacher. Man, it's like when it's meant to be, it's meant to be,
Sure.
She's a well-known teacher, Teresa Maria Rojas, one of the best acting teachers in all of Miami. Excellent teacher. And she happens to be teaching this class at Miami-Dade, an acting class, during the day. And the people in the class, man, were like motivated and they wanted to be there. I was like straight. I had just basically been playing baseball to that moment. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching all these people doing imaginary exercises and passing the ball that's not there and doing things with the ball. And I'm like, this is dumb. This is dumb. This is outrageous. I can't. The whole class. I'm like, I can't believe I'm in this class. I'm going through
Crazy,
this.
right?
Me. So towards the end of the semester, the teacher calls me aside and says, "Oh, you got to go up and do an exercise. You got to get up and do something because I'm going to fail you. It's not fair to everybody else in this class who has been participating for you to be sitting with your arms crossed the whole time and not do something."
Right.
And I'm like, and the exercise was bring a personal experience that you had on stage. I'm like, yeah. And the closest thing, the only thing I thought of was that my grandmother had recently died. And I remember being in the hospital waiting to go to walk in to see her. She was still alive, but it was a matter of minutes or hours. And I was very close to my grandmother. And my grandmother was very religious, spiritual, religious. She loved Psalm 23. And I had a Bible, and I was going to read Psalm 23 to her. That was the plan, and say goodbye to her. Give her a kiss. So I walked in, and she didn't even look like herself. And I bring in the Bible, and I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I opened the Bible, I read the Psalm 23 to her. It's hard for me to believe that this is the last time I'm going to see her alive. I give her a kiss, I hug her. Yeah, I walk out of the room, and she died a couple hours later. That was what happened in real life. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do waiting to go in, and then I'm going to go in. I'm going to read the Psalm 23rd. Pretty simple. Read the Psalm 23rd to say goodbye to my grandmother. I'm going to give her a kiss. I walk out. I did the scene. I basically had it all planned out. Little did I know at the time, I had no idea what I was doing. Little did I know that I was doing what's called sense memory. In acting class, that you go through all the senses and you go, okay, what's the temperature in the room? What am I touching? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I hearing? So I remember being in the waiting room. It was during the Boston and the Mets World Series. I remember clearly because I remember seeing the TV. It was playing.
The 86 World Series.
Not that day, but it was around that time. I remember being in that waiting room days at a time and seeing the World Series. Yeah. So I remember being my back against the wall. The wall was cold, and I'm basically shaking like this, anxious, waiting to go in with the Bible in my hand. So that's what I did on stage. I stood against the wall. I put my grandmother in my head. I put her right on the stage, visible grandmother on stage. I'm shaking. I look up like I imagine a doctor said, "You can come in now," or nurse, "You can come in now." I get up with my Bible and I take the steps to say goodbye to my grandmother like it happened in real life. But the moment I started like getting close to where my grandmother was in my head, suddenly something clicked. And for me, she was there. She was laying there.
Wow.
And I started crying. And I started shaking. And I grabbed my grandmother and I was just like kissing her and grabbing her like that with the Bible.
Yeah.
And that was the exercise. Everybody was quiet. Like you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was quiet. And suddenly I felt the equivalent to being naked on stage. Like suddenly you're naked. And I felt very raw. I got up. I walked out the room. I didn't even stick around. I like dropped mic. Wow. But it wasn't an achievement to me. It was like I felt very vulnerable and I walked out. And then she talked to me afterwards and she said, "Listen, I know you haven't taken this seriously at all, but I suggest maybe you want to explore this. Maybe this is something that you might be good at that you might want to try." And she was teaching these classes at night. That a lot of people were working actors already in Miami. They were doing stuff in Miami, doing commercials and novelas and stuff.
Yeah.
So I started going to that class at night, and it was like going to church. You know, people going to church with non-believers, but they hear the stories and they say, you know, like, okay, let me see what this is about. And I would go, but I kept going back every week, even though I was sitting in the back and I wouldn't do anything. So that was I did that like close to a year. At some point, I got a little bit of a bug. So I got an agent in Miami.
Okay.
They were basically, he was taking on anybody. I think if you look okay, you know, I was in good shape and stuff. I still look like an athlete. So he's like, yeah, no, I'm sure we can get you work. There's commercials, there's this. And they were doing a soap at the time. And he's like, primero I had no credit. So he told me, pon ahí Café Bustelo. No sé qué he said. He said the Café Bustelo, which I had not done.
Yeah.
But he said, nobody's going to know because I cast that commercial. So ponlo ahí. If anybody asks me.
He's your reference and your agent.
Yeah, he was my agent, but he had been a casting director at some point, I guess. So go to the studio. They're not casting, but go to the studio. Just show up at the studio in Miami, in Hialeah, Miami Springs, por ahí. Show up and say that you want to audition. Okay. I showed up with a resume and black and white photo. It was like, that wasn't good. I showed up with that. I walked in. Security guard stopped me right away. I mean, again, being naive. Like, look how walking straight to the studio where the actors are, people are filming. So I went in, and the security guard stopped me right away. Like, I didn't get like very far. And I'm like, see, can I help you? And I go, yeah, I'm here for an audition. He goes, oh, that's this one. And he takes me straight to casting. Like, I was lost. Takes me straight to casting. Yeah, can we help you? I'm going, see, I'm interested in auditioning for the soap. Like, it was that easy.
Yeah.
A soap, full of stars and stuff, Spanish stars. Okay, casting director's not here. He's out of town. But let's give me your information, and we'll call you. Something shows up for you. Something you're right for. Okay, well, I tried. I get a call like a week later. Yeah, we'd like to see you for a role.
No shit.
I go in. I audition for the role. I was way over the top. That guy, it's a scene on a phone. There was a scene on a phone that they gave me. And I'm doing the phone and estoy discutiendo. And I'm like, no, bro. I sounded very Cuban, even though I wasn't born in Cuba. I sounded very Cuban. But the casting director later on told me, you sound like you have a potato in your mouth. You should work on pronunciating and diction and all that. Okay. And I pulled the phone. I go, wow, I pulled the phone. I thought the phone was a prop. It wasn't a prop. It was his real phone that was connected to the wall. I just arranqué la pared. But I got the role.
No way. It's crazy. So, two crazy things. One, just this random circumstance that you end up in this class. Two, this teacher that made you get out of your comfort zone. And what came out of that spirituality of you and what might be you. Mm-hmm. And then that naiveness, right? That sometimes just like you get stuck in your own head. The fact is, like, half of the job is just showing up. So you showed up, but then you didn't overthink it. You're like, fuck it, I belong here, just like any of these other guys. And I'm gonna go right to the front of the line and see what happens. And it worked out for you. That's crazy.
It's like, you know what? It's like Tony Montana says, what is it? I got my word on my balls and I won't break them for anybody.
Exactly. One of the great lines of the movie. Let me ask you. You're a Miami guy. So then Scarface and Miami Vice had to be your early influences into movies and TV, right?
Oh, absolutely. Scarface, I was kind of young. I saw it, but I wasn't like, same thing, Scarface wasn't a hit when it came out.
Maybe you're like me. I saw it too young. And the Cubans didn't like
it. Me too.
Yeah.
And you're younger than I am, so you were a baby when you saw it.
I was a baby when I watched it.
Well, that's what you said so many bad words. Now we know why you said. So it was Miami Vice, man.
Yeah, man.
Miami Vice, that really was, for me, it was like seeing all those great characters, Sonny Crockett, Tubbs. And I remember seeing them shooting around town. And then I had a cousin who passed away not too long ago, Julio Oscar Mechoso. Great character actor that did tons of stuff in Hollywood. And Julio was in Miami Vice. He was a recurring role in Miami Vice. He was a tech. He was a tech guy that worked for the Vice team.
Yeah.
He's friends. I know he's friends with Andy Garcia, and he works with Andy Garcia. I wasn't even into acting.
Right.
So for me, it was just seeing an actor from, the movies. My day was, I watched Miami Vice. I think it was at 9, from 9 to 10. And afterwards, I'd go out.
It was much watch TV, especially you lived in Miami, because you'd be like, oh, I saw, the highlights here. Like, I grew up by there. I know this spot. It was like always just part of us. It was always super cool, man.
And it would blow my mind when you would see them driving por la Ocho.
Yeah.
And he made a turn in the Ferrari, quick turn in the Ferrari, and then he's going through Ocean Drive. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, he gets all through Miami super fast. Yeah, I had a cop in a Ferrari. Like,
He made a left from Main Street to Ocean Drive. I'm like,
It's
how
crazy.
was that? That's like,
It's
two
crazy.
different counties.
So you were acting here, and then you went out for Kane to Hollywood. Is that what got you there? Is that
No.
like
I was acting in Miami, and again, man, the things that happen when you start out, it sometimes defines your whole career in many ways. I was. That's how I got into. You saw. I told you the story how I got into La Novela, and how I got into Kane in a way. My first film roles, man, was in Miami. First of all, the first one was called movie. The first one was I had booked a commercial for Pizza Hut. I was an extra in the Pizza Hut. Naive again. I broke all the rules. I constantly broke rules. I was doing a commercial for Pizza Hut, and I was playing the guy from Domino's Pizza, which was the competition. It was supposed to be bad. Pizza Hut was great. Domino's was bad. So the whole commercial is, okay, they get a call at Domino's Pizza, and that time Pizza Hut was selling steak pizzas. So it was a Spanish commercial, and they were calling it I guess the person that leading the commercial is this actor who picks up the phone and goes, Domino's Pizza, and then he goes, hey, wait a sec, momentico, and he turns around, he says, and I'm in the back sweeping, and he says, tenemos pizza, viste? That's it. Tenemos pizza, viste? Because they didn't have steak pizza Domino's.
Yeah.
The guy says, tenemos pizza, viste? And I'm sweeping as an extra. I'm an extra in the commercial. I'm sweeping. I go, no. I didn't have any lines. I wasn't supposed to say no. Because the moment you speak, you got to get upgraded. They got to pay you more. You get residuals. All that stuff that I was as an extra in the background. I was just background. Direct cut. You can't speak. The guy says you can't speak. Like, oh, okay, sorry, whatever. And then the guy comes back and he goes, actually, they want you to say no. Because in commercials, I'm sure you know this, the commercial, the client is the company that's doing the commercial. Mm-hmm. That's the person that's running the commercial. It's not really the director that much. The director's making sure that it looks good, that the acting is good. But when it comes to dialogue and stuff like that, it's like the client is the company that's paying for the commercial. So they like the idea that I said no, and these commercials they have tons of money. So they go, no, you can say no. So I got upgraded.
Perfect.
Boom. We're talking out of place. I got upgraded. While I was doing that commercial, I overheard a conversation with these two men sitting in a lobby at this big place where the people were. And the guy is talking about, la película, the movie that I'm going to be shooting soon, blah, blah, blah. We're going to shoot it here in Miami. We're shooting. And I'm like, what? You're shooting? I'm listening. You're shooting in Miami. I run to the car. I grabbed this little demo tape that I had put together with two VCRs that my friend, you might know who he is, René Lavang, he was a working actor. He's a working actor, but René, at that time in Miami, he was already a working actor. So I had that in my hand. I go, excuse me. I overheard the conversation that I heard you say that you're shooting a movie. Like, when did you overhear that? Because I was passing by and I stopped when I heard we're shooting a movie. And I get, no, here's my demo reel. I would love to be able to audition for you. It's like, okay, sure. So I gave him the demo, and he goes, okay, we'll give you a call. I go, mira, I'm in the process of moving. I made this up on the spot. I'm in the process of moving. So I'm going to be changing my phone. Is it possible that you give me your phone? Back then, people weren't giving emails.
Of course, right.
Now they will give you your email or Instagram or whatever. Yeah. Is it possible that you give me your phone number so I can call you? And so I'll give you my new number at that point. That way you can reach me. Mentira. So the guy was like, he was like, he was on the spot. He goes, okay, take it on the number. I called him. He says, well, call me like in a month. I called him a month ago. And he goes, yeah, I know the money hasn't come in yet. I thought he was giving me the runaround.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I'll call you next month. I said, I called them every month for 6 months religiously. Oh, yeah, buenas. Manuel, the guy's name was Manuel. I'm checking in. I had no idea what the movie's about, who was in it, it was any good, if he was any good, none of that. Now you do research with him. 6 months later, he goes, yeah, oh, hey, good news. He goes, the money finally came in. We're doing the movie. I go, great. When can I audition? He goes, no, that's okay. I pretty much know what you can do now. I'm talking to me every month. So it ends up that the movie stars Philip Michael Thomas.
Yeah, man. Miami Vice.
And I play his rookie partner.
No shit.
I'm a cop. I'm his rookie partner. That's
your dream. Your dream. Looking back to Miami Vice, you're cracking.
I made it.
And Dubs, yeah.
I made it. So I played. That's my first role. The next film role, which was I say it's my first movie because it's really the first big role that I do in a movie. It was this movie called Suicide Blonde. Mm-hmm. And how that came about was I knew this guy who I had met in acting class. A very smart guy, very intellectual, very artsy. Yeah. His way of being, he spoke like. He didn't drive. So I befriended him. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about doing this movie, and we would get together with a video camera and we shoot scenes. You know, we're starting out.
Yeah.
Y entonces me dice, oye, I know this guy who I went to film school with, because he had studied film, the guy, separate from acting. I went to film school with, but I'm not too sure about him because he didn't even finish his film in film school. But he's doing this feature. He got money to do a feature, and he wants to meet with me. I don't think I'm interested. He had not done anything, but he's like acting like I don't think I'm interested. He had done a lot of theater. He was a good actor, very talented actor. But he had film. There's not a lot of film in Miami, so he hadn't done a lot. He's like, but I don't think I'm interested. But could you do me a favor? If you have the time and drive me. It's in Fort Lauderdale. We're in Miami. But at the time, I was working as a therapist at the Miami Mental Health Center. And this guy happens to live across the street from the Miami Mental Health Center. Like across the street. Yeah. So it wasn't it was a drive to Fort Lauderdale. But I'm like, boy, I'm getting in on that. I'm getting in on that. I'm going to try to audition for this. I'll give the guy a ride, but at a good moment, I'm like, going to be, hey, can I audition? So I give him a ride. We get there. I meet the director. The director's like his friend, hugs him. Oh, hey, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. He goes, the director says, I have a role that I have you in mind for that I think you'd be great. He tells the guy, I'm sitting there. I'm like his driver. I'm just his driver. I think you would be great. Would love to have you audition for the producers because I'm not the only one that makes a decision. And have producers. He's like, I would have to look at the script first. The guy says, I would have to look at the script first because I don't like doing commercial films. And I'm sitting next to him. I'm like, I do commercial films.
Make it till you make it, my man.
I do commercial films. I have no problems doing commercial films. And the guy's like, oh, you're an actor. I go, yeah, I'm an actor as well. Yeah, I gave him a ride, but I'm an actor as well. Since I go, this guy's basically, he's está matando this deal. Yeah. I go, can I audition for you? In fact, can I audition right now? I have this monologue. I was doing a play called Big Al about a guy who's obsessed with Al Pacino. I go, and I break into the monologue, and the guy goes, wait, no, hold on. No, I'll give me your headshot. I had the headshot. Give him the headshot. And they called me in for the audition, and then I auditioned like 5 times for this movie. Like they kept calling me in like 5 times. Yeah. The 5th time, again, the things that you do at the beginning sometimes makes all the difference on how you work, how you go about your business. Yeah. I had a million notes in my script, like a million. You couldn't read the dialogue anymore. Like I had notes, ideas, this and that, little scribbles, drawings of my character, how I envisioned the character, all that in the script. I went to meet with this guy, the director, the 5th time. And later on, I found out that from the beginning, he had in mind another actor for this.
Mm-hmm.
He always had that actor in mind, but the actor wouldn't say yes. So he kept so I was the backup until this point. I was still the backup on my 5th audition. But I went in and I sat down with him and he looked at my script and he goes, can I look at your script? Like he hadn't seen it. He goes, how could you read your lines? It's like you're written over your lines and you have little monologues on the side and like subtext and he's like, he gives me back the script and he goes, I got to give you a new script. He goes, I got to give you the script. The role is yours.
Wow. And
he gave me the role on that spot. In part because he knew I could act. At this point, he's seen me do the scenes 5 times.
Yeah.
But in big part because he saw my work ethic.
It's amazing. Your story that's come out big time in that, again, I'll go use the word resilient, just resilient. You get after it and then people see it. I mean, that it's a great lesson for any young person in their profession. And no job is too small or too big. You want your opportunity. You got to keep pushing and pressing and it led to your success. And at that point, when did you go? You went to LA for Kane?
After that, I did Leave It That. So I did that movie. Movie. Think about that's why I'm like, when times are tough, and this is what I tell young people, if this is really their passion, whatever they want to do, and to look back and you start seeing that things that in your life seem out of order, or they make no sense. If it's meant to be, it all connects.
Sure.
This might sound a little spiritual or whatever, but it comes together. Like roads that you never know. Like the Don Johnson story, he's driving through 8th Street and makes a left in Ocean Drive. Roads that don't connect suddenly connect. So 100%. I do this film called Suicide Blonde. Mm-hmm. And I did a great job. I was super prepared. I knew the character. Yeah. I went in, I killed it. It was a 3rd lead in the movie. So I went from basically having a few scenes with Philip Michael Thomas and having a few scenes in Spanish soaps to being the 3rd lead in the film. So from that, I get cast in the same thing. It was something I was hustling. Yeah. There was this director, Norton Rodriguez in Miami, guy who's well known in Miami. He wanted to make this movie about political prisoners in Cuba. And he was pursuing this. And I have met him for another audition. And again, I stayed in touch with him. That movie never happened. The other movie that I auditioned for him never happened, but I stayed in touch with him. I would call him every once in a while. Oh, what's up? What are you doing? How are you? You know, I kept that relationship. And then he tells me about this film called Freedom. Back then it was Freedom. Then they changed the title to Leave It That. It was in Spanish. It was in English, the movie. But they thought, for whatever reason, they changed the title to Leave It That. But so I stayed in touch with Norton. Then he's doing this movie about Cuba, and he has a role for me in the movie. I play one of the friends of the lead actor, and he dies at some point. He dies in the movie. Like, wow, that's great. I'm like, that's great. But I'm looking at the script. I'm like, I want to play the lead. You know, I'm swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
I'm swinging for the fences. I want to play the lead. I don't want to die page 45.
Yeah.
And the truth is that I felt that there was nobody better alive to play this role. Like, I felt that in my heart. I believed in it. Around that time, and the character in the movie is a guy who escapes Cuba on a raft. That's the movie. He's put in prison. He's a political prisoner. Tells the story of the political prisoners, and then he escapes on a raft, and then it tells the story of the rafters.
Yeah.
Around that time, I had booked a play in Miami called The Raft, where I was playing a Cuban who was a rafter. And I was one of the leads in the play. I call the guy. I goes, "Oye, I'm doing this play. I would love to invite you and your dad to come see me in the play." He goes, "Oh, yeah, sure. I'll come down." I go, "I play a rafter. I want you to see me playing a rafter." Yeah. He goes, "Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I would love to see the play." I come see the play. He was blown away. He loved my performance. And that's when I hit him. I go, "Oh, thank you. I want to play the lead in your movie." I go, listen, I play political prisoner in the movie. My grandfather spent 11 years in prison in Cuba. He did,
Right.
as a political prisoner. I don't think there's anybody more ready and better to play this than me.
Yeah.
He stayed quiet. He goes, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Honey, you changed my mind. He goes, you changed my mind. He gave me the role.
Wow.
So I get the role. We can't get money we're having a hard time finding money for the film because it's a political film.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to make it. Even Cubans in Miami who have money.
They don't even want to make it.
You know, who said, you are cool, but when you're asking for money, they're like, well, no, don't. You know, no, don't. I support the cause, but, you know.
Yeah, they disappear.
They disappeared. So, one of the producers in this movie happens to know, because he had worked as a stunt coordinator in the other film that I had done, the one that I drove the guy to Fort Lauderdale, and then I ended up getting one of the leads. He knew one of the producers, one of the money guy. Neil left. Rest in peace. He passed away already. But Neil was an interesting character. He was intrigued by the whole aspect of these crazy Cubans trying to make a political movie about Cuba and rafts and prison for little money,
right,
compared to a Hollywood movie. Yeah. And we were very ambitious. And then he goes, okay, I'll go to a table reading. So Neil shows up to the reading. We're doing a table reading. And the actors, who most of them ended up not being in the movie, that were reading in the table reading, were impassioned. They were reading the lines like they have been all medicated.
Really?
And I'm seeing Neil. I'm looking at Neil, and I'm seeing him lose interest.
Yeah.
Seeing him lose interest because it's boring as hell. What he's hearing is boring.
Yeah.
So suddenly, instead of the characters that know this, I got my character. I started reading my character, and then when it came to another character, I jumped in and I did that character, and I started doing most of the characters in the play, except a few good actors who were in the reading.
Yeah.
Okay, ended up being in the movie. Okay, they were bringing it, but the other people that weren't bringing it, I started doing their lines. I fired them on the spot. I'm doing like 20 characters at the same time. I'm doing this character, I'm doing that character. And Neil, who always had a video camera with him, and I knew it was a bad sign that he wasn't recording this. When I start moving up and I get up on my feet and I start doing the miliciano and I do the Cuban, and I'm like, I'm not. He takes up the video camera and starts recording. He starts recording because that was interesting to him.
Right. You got him now.
Like a very visual guy. That was interesting. He starts recording. I'm like, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So Neil, when we're done, he goes, I'll give you money to start filming. So we started the movie and he kept putting money in. We kept putting money in. Then he put money in post-production and we finished the movie. And in Miami, it was a hit. We played at the James L. Knight Center. And the theater was packed. The city of Miami sponsored the screening there.
I've heard of it. I now that you say that, I'm gonna.
We have 4,000 people show up at the James L. Knight Center to watch it. It was Los Bambam were playing. Los Bambam were playing a few blocks away at where the Heat played. So the city of Miami sponsored. They couldn't stop Los Bambam from playing in Miami.
Yeah.
People were outraged because obviously the money's going back to Cuba. It's not the singers that get paid.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, it's the Cuban government who's getting paid with people had them singing in Miami. So it was insulting to the Cuban community. So they go, okay, we can't do anything, but we could play this movie at the same time as the Bambam movie about a political prison in Cuba and shows what the Cuban government does to people. The lack of, the oppression, the lack of freedom. Yeah. That's what the movie is about. It's called Freedom.
Right.
So we played it at the same time. CNN covered it.
No shit.
CNN covered the movie, covered the Bambam, did the story. It came out nationally, basically. So it was this little movie, man, that blew up in a way in the Cuban community that a lot of people got to see. And it's like everything fell into place. And then after that, I moved to LA because then
was that one of your proudest moments as far as your career was making that movie?
Yeah, to this day, when things get bleak, and I'm like, how is this going to happen? How I'm going to, you know, I'm like, I never saw the how with that movie. I never saw how we were going to raise the money because people who we thought might be interested in putting money up said no. So suddenly those doors closed. Neil wasn't in the picture at that point. Never thought of Neil wanting to be involved with this. So, man, we sold hot dogs. We sold hot dogs at Tony Taylor Academy.
Tony
during
Taylor
games there.
Yeah,
he let us, George Taylor, Jorge Taylor, let us go there and set up a hot dog for the proceeds to go to the movie.
Isn't that funny, man?
And I think I ate like 20 hot dogs that day. And we raised like $60. And I'm like, this is not gonna selling hot dogs in a baseball game.
Yeah. All right, so you move out to LA. You leave Miami, and you work with some great actors, right? I mean, you're in Hangover 3. You work with Bradley Cooper, and you work with Sean Penn and stuff. Did you ever have a moment you were in a scene and you're like, holy shit, I went from this not wanting to do a drama class at Miami-Dade Community College to I'm with these guys? Like, did you have one of those moments?
My moment was when I booked Kane. There was two moments. When I booked Kane, and I remember I had done a movie in Spanish. I got to say this. I had done the only thing I had done in LA really was a movie in Spanish called Ladrón que roba ladrón, which was produced by Lionsgate. It was the first Spanish film ever produced by an American studio.
Interesting.
Pero Ladrón que roba ladrón hadn't come out. It was coming out like a year later. It was coming out. So in the meantime, I didn't have anything, and we didn't know how. We thought the movie was going to be a hit, Ladrón que roba ladrón, but it was in Spanish, and I had moved to LA to do American English market things. And I ruptured my Achilles doing Ladrón que roba ladrón. My last scene in the movie, I ruptured my Achilles, so I was out, basically not being able to do anything.
Yeah.
In fact, when I auditioned for Kane, I was rehabbing, and I didn't have permission to go work yet. So if I booked Kane, I'm going, okay, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in a coffee bean, like needing to work. I was like, my rehab was finishing. I have been in workers' comp, and I'm like, I need to work as soon as I need to work.
Yeah.
Man, and I have been in LA like 5 years, which is not a lot. Looking back now, I go, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
Like that, only 5 years in, but it felt like an eternity because I had struggled a lot.
Yeah, sure, man.
Like stories that people don't imagine of, like being really broke. So I remember being in a coffee bean. I hadn't heard from Kane. I had auditioned. I hadn't heard, and I get a call from my manager saying you booked it.
No shit.
You booked Kane, and you're doing. At the time, I was doing 6 episodes. Out of the 13, you're doing 6 episodes. And I remember closing my eyes, man, just thanking God. Just saying, thank you, God. Like it came full circle. It was like, wow. That was that. And then the other moment was when I was actually in the table read for Kane. And I'm there, and now I see Jimmy, and he's sitting next to me, and I see Rita Moreno.
Wow. Yeah, big time.
I've seen movies, big time. I see Hector Lozano, Pretty Woman,
Yeah.
I see Nestor Carbonell, who's a really nice guy, but I had seen him in tons of stuff already.
Yeah.
People that I knew, Lee Turgis, he was in the pilot, he wasn't the rest, but I knew Lee from seeing him on TV. All these people who I'd seen on TV, all of them. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I have no LA credits whatsoever except that Spanish movie. What am I doing here? Later on, I found out that one of the reasons why I was able to get greenlit by CBS was because they thought I had Cuban credits from Cuba. Remember, I never broke character.
You weren't even born in Cuba.
That's why I had no credits. That's why they said, well, he's got no credits, but he's worked a lot. He's a Cuban actor from Cuba. So you're not going to see it here. But he's an experienced actor because it's a big role, man. It was a difficult role.
Yeah, man. I watched
look at Kane, it was the things that character goes through,
Yeah, man.
So that was
That's so great, boy. But listen, you belonged at that table because of the hard work, the resiliency, the never giving up. A lot of people would have looked at LA after 5 years and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna pack my bags, go back to Miami."
I saw everybody. I saw people who were way ahead of me acting, who were talented, if not more talented than me, turn around and go back, man. In fact, my apartment was full of stuff from actors from Miami who had lived in LA before me, and they left. And they left me the vacuum cleaner. I had a microwave that was huge from somebody else. I had a plant. One of them left me a plant with that had $1 inside because it was for good luck. Whatever the idea is, if you put the $1, I guess people that believe this know about this. I have no idea. Supposedly, you put $1 inside the plant, you'll never be broke. Bueno, you know why you'll never be broke? Because when you're broke, you can put your hand inside the plant, take out that $1.
It's true. It's true.
Which I found that out.
No, but let me tell you, man, that's a good lesson. And listen, the skeletons are left in that apartment, but you picked it up, you grew it like a plant, and dude, like I use that word, like you didn't give up, you were resilient, and that's why you belonged at that table, not those Cuban credits that you earned back in Havana.
Totally. And taking chances, I took chances.
You took big.
I ad-libbed the beginning, which to me was okay. I'm going to show them that. My ad lib, there was a reason for that. I wanted to show them that, that I'm really Cuban.
Yeah, man.
That I'm a Cubano inventa. We invent on the spot. So it's like
there's a reason for that.
About a Jimmy character, I'm coming up with a story really quick.
Absolutely.
Like, well, these are gifts. This is not stolen. This blah blah blah. It was stolen.
So, what are you working on now? What do you got going on?
Okay, now I'm a little superstitious, so I won't go into details.
No problem. You're Cuban. You're like me. I'm superstitious.
Until it happens, because you know how many times I've talked about something running your mouth to start a week from now, and then later it never happens. And I look back at the interview, I go, I never really got to do that. But I'm working on getting the distribution now of a film that I wrote and directed, and my wife Judy 2 stars in. It's called The Summer Night. And it will get distribution. It's killed at the film festival circuit. My wife's won. We played at 10 festivals, and one didn't have Best Actress. They didn't give that award. They only gave Best Film, and we won Best Film in that one.
Wow.
So out of 9 festivals that they gave Best Actress, she's won 5.
Wow.
Including Barcelona, Los Angeles, Texas, no, not Texas. Texas, we got the best film. She's won Best Actress in 5 out of the 9 festivals. It's an amazing role.
What's the movie about?
It takes place during COVID, and it's about an exotic dancer, right? Who's an alcoholic, and she's trying to get sober. She's trying to be sober during COVID. Bad time.
Bad time.
And her life is a mess. And she starts dancing on webcams. She starts dancing on webcamming. But you would think that the film was about stripping. People are like, it's about connecting.
Yeah.
When I started doing it, at that time when OnlyFans started happening, and started picking up, and it intrigued me. I remember reading an article about that. I had a friend as well who had a girlfriend that was doing something along the lines of that as well. Yeah. And then all that intrigued me, and I started doing research. I knew some people that had been dancers. They were no longer dancers, in fact, but they had been dancers, so they knew. And they gave me a lot of information. But what kept coming up was connecting. You make your money connecting to these people. And the conversations, you don't make it dancing. People think dancing, you make the money. Dancing is the reason why you're there and the reason why they walk in the door.
Sure.
But a lot of people are looking for human connection. The dancing, and during COVID more than ever, and that's what kept coming up. And then I started doing the research, and I started hearing that as well. And it was the theme that kept coming up. People are lonely and looking to connect during COVID, especially during COVID. So that's what the movie's about. It's about connecting. the need to be connecting with another human being, being seen, because we were during COVID, we were locked in the house. We weren't going out. And depends, where you're at, it was even worse. So that's what the movie's about. The movie's, I mentioned COVID once in the movie.
All right, I can't let you go without us talking a little Miami baseball. So,
okay,
for those of you who don't know, we grew up in an era, and it still is. This is a hotbed for talent for Miami. The guys that we saw growing up, right? I mean, the best of the best. The amount of Major League Baseball players that we played against, minor leaguers, good D1 ball players. It was, looking back on it, you didn't know it, but looking back on it today, you're like, oh my God, it was just like every park had a kid that
you took it for granted. Yeah.
You took it for granted. And for you to play, you had to be awesome.
Yeah, man. So many people came out of Miami that made it to the big leagues.
Crazy.
I remember Fabregas. I played against Fabregas since I was a little kid. Grifol used to be Pedro Grifol. He's the manager right now. They came to the White Sox.
Well, the White Sox now, yeah, man.
The White Sox manager. He used to be a pitcher growing up, and then he started catching. Grifol, Alex Fernandez, obviously.
Right.
We
played
the same team with him.
Yeah.
Shannon Stewart, who's a little younger than me, but I played.
I remember.
Yeah, Shannon Stewart.
Ricky Gutierrez, the shortstop.
Ricky Gutierrez, I played against Ricky.
Yeah, dude.
I remember playing against Ricky, although he was from Hialeah, but we played in tournaments against each other. So many people.
So many guys. And then, guys who played in the minors, dude. You go when you play
tons of people that played in the minors.
Tons and you got to be good, man. You got to be good. No, it's wild times. All right. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, then I'm going to let you go because I know you're super busy. Okay. You got to promote your new movie. Ready? All right. You worked with Sean Penn, or it could be Bradley Cooper. What baseball player would you compare him to in doing a scene with him?
I'm going to say Sean Penn. Even though I didn't have any scenes with Sean Penn.
Okay.
I would probably say Pete Rose.
Oh, dude, you're from my generation, bro. Pete Rose is the best.
Pete Rose. He's the player that I was like all about the craft, That's so committed. Bradley is as well. But Bradley would be more like
he's a Phillies guy, man.
He'd be more like Bryce Harper,
There you go.
He'll hit a mile away, but Bryce Harper, especially Bryce Harper now, who's more a likable guy, and he's well spoken.
He's a hard worker, bro, and he's a baller.
Man, that guy's super talented and super nice guy.
Nice.
By the way,
really?
Super nice guy.
Oh, that's awesome to hear, man. Oh, yeah, okay. Your favorite movie about Miami? Your favorite Miami movie?
It's got to be Scarface, even though they didn't shoot all the Scarface in Miami.
I know. That's what everybody says, man.
When you see a hill in Scarface, like, wait a second, Tony, the house of Tony it's a house in Pasadena, I think. It's not Miami, but it's got to be Scarface. In fact, I just had a friend who went to Miami for the first time, and I said, he was in South Beach. I go, okay, there. I told him where he was at. I go, right across the street from where you're at is the street in the middle, the scene in the middle after they cut the head in the hotel.
The chainsaw.
The chainsaw scene, yeah. It happened right there with Stephen Bauer. And he's like, really? I'm like, it was. So it has to be Scarface.
It's a Johnny Rockets now, which breaks my heart.
Wow.
Yeah, man. It's terrible. Okay. The next question is actually feeds right into the Scarface. If they had to remake Scarface today, who should play Tony?
Me.
I knew it. And you would be a great Tony.
Man, me. I was just talking to a writer, and he was telling me about this movie that he had written. It's a really great script, really powerful. He goes, it's so powerful that my friends that read it, who are actors, said, you know what? I don't want to be in your film. I don't want to. I would hate to hurt your film by me being in it. And I'm like, brother, you will never hear those words coming out of my mouth. Just so you know.
You will never.
I was like stunned that actors had said that.
All right. Two more questions. What is the proper amount of cologne a man should spray on himself?
Go light.
Go light. Like what? 2? There you go. There you go. It's a big
That's
controversy here in our office. All right, last question.
Because your sense of smell might be off. And then
But
you know what?
dude, but remember Miami? You take the shower in that shit.
Oh yeah. What is that movie about Sebastian? That
he walks into it. All right, one more. Advice you can give to a young person just getting into the industry. What's a piece of advice you'd give it to them?
Don't give up.
There you go.
If you're passionate about it, if you're in it for the right reasons, if you're in it because you're passionate about, you need to be acting or directing, and you're passionate about this, and you want to tell stories. Don't give up. If you're in it to be famous and you want to make money and all that, do something else. You're likely to be successful with the same amount of. If you put in the same amount of effort you have to put in this industry, into something else, you're going to be successful. So I would say don't go in it for that because you're going to be very frustrated. And we're living at a great time right now that we have phones that records 4K. Tell your story. Put it on Instagram. Put it on Facebook. Put it on TikTok. It's a great moment, Tell your 100%. Stories. Get into the habit of giving yourself work. Don't wait for somebody else to give you the job. That's what I would tell young people now.
That's great advice. My man, Oscar, where can people find out about you?
Go to Instagram, Oscar Torre Actor. Follow me on Instagram, and that's the best way to find me.
Guys, I've seen I always get pumped when I see him on a show or because he reminds me of just Miami, his roots, grew up same neighborhood I can. He's a fantastic actor. Oscar, I wish you nothing but the best. Please let us know when your movie is coming out and you get the distribution rights. I'd love to help you promote it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
I will. Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me. Say hi to your dad.
I will. Bye.